Welcome back. A dozen minutes past the top of the hour on this Tuesday. Moments ago, United Nations Ambassador Susan Rice said that the United States is not ruling out arming the Libyan rebels.
Joining us right now to react to this news and so much more, Arizona Republican, ranking member of the Armed Services Senate Committee, Senator John McCain. Senator, welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be back with you all.
Senator, not much surprises you, but were you surprised that the ambassador would indicate that we'd consider arming the rebels? Does that make sense?
Oh, I think it makes sense. They're obviously outgunned, and if it was not for our the provision of U.S. and allied air power, they would have been defeated long ago. But by the way, if we had imposed a no-fly zone 3 weeks ago, Gaddafi would be gone by now. But yeah, they are obviously outgunned.
Well, Senator McCain, let me ask you this: do you know who the rebels are?
Sure. One of them is the leader is a former justice minister. They've met with Hillary Clinton. They are recognized now by Qatar and by France. They're a group of people from all over Libya that represent the Libyan people. Do I know them well? No, because they've been under the boot of a brutal dictator.
But my question is, do you trust the rebels enough to feel comfortable with the United States arming them?
Absolutely, as opposed to the dictator who murdered at one time about 1,000 of his own people, that has American blood on his hands, and has promised that if he wins, he'll go house to house and massacre people who opposed him. Absolutely.
Yeah. Senator, let me ask you this. If the administration is considering now arming the rebels as they march on Tripoli, that would have been a great thing for the president to bring up last night. Why do you think he didn't?
I think it's because of his emphasis on, which is incomprehensible to me, on not using force to overthrow Gaddafi. And he obviously doesn't understand that if we don't overthrow Gaddafi, we risk a stalemate, which would be like the one in Iraq after Operation Desert Storm lasted 10 years and did not remove Saddam Hussein from power. But by the way, I think the administration is relying on and hoping for a coup that would remove Gaddafi from within. I hope that happens. I'm just not sure it will.
Were you surprised the president said this last night, bringing up Iraq? Let's listen.
To be blunt, we went down that road in Iraq. Thanks to the extraordinary sacrifices of our troops and the determination of our diplomats, we are hopeful about Iraq's future. But regime change there took 8 years, thousands of American and Iraqi lives, and nearly $1 trillion. That is not something we can afford to repeat in Libya.
He went back there. Are you surprised? Relevant? Is that a relevant analogy?
I don't think so, and maybe to be fair, the president should have said, which he never would, but to be fair, he should have said, and the president, Obama, opposed the surge, said it wouldn't work, said it was doomed to failure, and wanted us to get out in defeat. But it is what it is, and it's unfortunate that it's always, we're not Bush in speeches. I think he should get over it. President Bush is in retirement.
Senator McCain, there is a Fox News alert happening right now. It's just crossing the wires that NATO has just announced that they're delaying taking over this mission. What does that say to you?
It means it's hard for any organization to, as good as NATO is, to replace U.S. leadership. There's 28 members, and sometimes it's government by committee. We know how that works. And the fact is that even with a, quote, takeover by NATO, the United States will still be the key element in all of these affairs, including air power.
But why would NATO make that announcement?
Why would they say it? Yeah. Because they're having trouble organizing it, and this zeal to make sure that the American people believe the United States is out of a leadership role. Whether we like it or not, the United States leads, and we should be proud of that leadership, and we should be proud of what we've done throughout the 20th and 21st century.
Senator, did you notice about 10 days ago when the administration and the president were talking about the operation, they were talking about how it's being led by a multinational coalition, and the coalition this and the coalition that. And then last night, the president very proudly was talking about his leadership and the U.S.-led force.
Well, I think that the president should be proud of the U.S.-led force and what we've done. but there's a fundamental contradiction in what he said about not using force for regime change. It's his policy that Gaddafi go. Gaddafi needs to go, and I believe that we need to continue what we're doing, which, by the way, on the ground is very serious support for the rebels who would not succeed otherwise. And why don't we say that? Why don't we just say we are on the side of the rebels, we want Gaddafi to go by one means or another?
Right, and I assume we're going to recognize the same person that the Qatar and France recognize as the new leader of Libya at some point. But do you agree with your good friend Senator Joe Lieberman, is that we have to take a similar stance in Syria? If they start massacring their people too, we should maybe threaten them with a no-fly zone?
I think we have to treat every country differently. Each situation is differently. And before we make a commitment, we have to assess it. And right now, I do not support U.S. military power anywhere unless it is an absolute vital necessity. The president made a good case last night for U.S. intervention because it would have resulted in a slaughter in Benghazi. No, I think that each country is different, each situation is different, and we have to judge these as they arise and how they transpire.
All right, Senator John McCain, always great to get your thoughts. Thank you so much for being our guest this morning.
Thanks for having me on.
All right.